I can
Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis ready to rock.
today we have the greatest news ever. The greatest it is the best news. We have we have reviewed the comic, we reviewed the movie. We surprisingly it wasn't actually, let me be honest. It was a little comic that could. We were a little rough on it. We kind of beat it up. I kind of like the art, but it's a little rough in spots. It's a very simple story about immortals that have become assassins and take on different things. And of course, that's the original story was a tale of being one of them turning on the other. This historical history of these characters and flashing back and forward. Oh, it sounds like something that we saw before, maybe a series, but we'll get into that in a second. Old Guard 2 is a sequel at Netflix. It's coming. I enjoyed the movie. I I did precursor Cal, but Cal, give us your thoughts. Unbridled, however you want to do it.
I'm well, I think I was on record. I thought the originals, I thought the series, first one, Old Guard, okay. I thought it was okay. I read the comics. I know we reviewed a couple of them, or no, I think we reviewed one of them, and I didn't find the premise to be something new, So I just went into it, seeing what would happen, and I didn't think it was awful or anything of that nature. I didn't think it was excellent by any stretch of the imagination, but it was watchable. It was enjoyable. Obviously, a lot of people liked it more than I did, and so we're going to get some more of it, which is a chance for them to build on a lot of the stuff that they gave us in that first movie. There were a couple of things that I definitely would like to see explored. The biggest one, of course, being the immortal who was sunk to the bottom of the ocean, and of course now she's back, which we knew she would come back. Anybody who's watched Highlander realizes these people always get out. I would, look forward to seeing that. And, Charlize Theron has proven herself to be quite capable of doing the action stuff. It hasn't been Eon Flux or Atomic Blonde, and it's been the Old Guard. So, where we see a show like Jupiter's Legacy not coming back, we get to see Old Guard come back with a sequel. Let's see what they can do with it.
That's right in the lane that I wanted to talk about because I mean this is outside of not really doing the lighting that was done in the comic book because it's kind of high contrast sort of thing. They just went straight for which I you can't fault them trying to not doing that stuff. But at the same time it was a fun series. The thing is, and I think that's the biggest misstep for the Miller World stuff is that he was announced they announced it as if it was a foregone conclusion that this was going to be a success, right? And say just, hey, we put
Sure
out
looked like
Jupiter.
it. I said it sure looked like it.
Yep. Yeah, no, that it felt like it was going to make their money back in the same vein of Marvel stuff or anything else that was successful, even the and the CW type stuff. But then at the same time, it kind of stalled. And in my opinion, I would have done the movie first since they had stuff that connects with the Super Crooks connect to it. They could have tried to do a series coming on later, but because I think they only didn't do too much flashbacks in the Old Guard, but they did a couple things, setting up some things. They didn't go too long with it. They kept it as sort of quick moments, and that's the kind of thing they could have done with Jupiter's Legacy, just to start it out. Since they know they got a big story, start out with a film, and then go into we're going to do a series and get the people there, keep people juiced up to be like coming on and let's we need some more, and then because you got a bunch of talent, like at least not big name, but you got people that are recognizable in Jupiter's Legacy. It could have been just like this, but just start out slow and say, hey, no, not basically line Mark Miller's pockets for Jupiter's Legacy, and next thing you're like, now we don't know if it's sad to see that if all of the stuff that I wanted to see out of his work we probably might not see. So I'm glad to see this is getting another thing. I think what's it is it the writer of this? Oh man, I don't want to say it's Greg Rucka. It could be. I know I'm wrong. Do you remember the writer of the Old Guard?
Greg Rucka.
Okay, it is Greg Rucka. So yeah, so Greg Rucka. They don't seem like they were, running away from comic books and saying we're millionaires. We did it. So I'm really happy that they're coming up with a new. They got the green light. I was expecting it already, but it was like they're waiting their time, figuring it out, and they're not giving up on the superheroics. So superheroics without costumes.
I think if it's not Jeff Lemire, who they're usually looking to tap his properties,
Hmm.
and Jeff Lemire, you have to just give a lot of credit. That guy's just a good writer. In terms of comics and stuff, he's like pretty much just prolific, turning out this series, that series, a bunch of different stuff over here. But if it's not him, then it's usually Greg Rucka because hold on, what is this other series?
Oh, you talking about the with the sweet tooth? I didn't know that was him.
Yeah, I think isn't
Wow.
Greg, I think Greg Rucka's he's also the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Umbrella Academy is going on season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Umbrella Academy is going on season 3, so that's a bona fide success for Netflix because that probably means Umbrella Academy might get as far as season 5.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix has a rule where if you haven't made your audience by like season 3 or 4, you're pretty much out. That depends on where your numbers are. But Umbrella Academy got renewed very early on for season 2, and then very early on for season 3. What's even better is Umbrella Academy improved with season 2, whereas the first season I was kind of like, but the second season I improved to the point like, and I always translated into comic sales because anytime I see people willing to go out and pay money for the comics, that means they want stories so they can actually read and see what goes on, either the individual issues or the trade paperbacks. And they did a much better job with the second season, much stronger. Uh, just a lot of improvement off that first season. So the third season's coming in, and it looks, they definitely have some changes up there. But if it's not Greg Rucka, then usually Jeff Lemire. He's got a ton of stuff that's been optioned, but I think Sweet Tooth might be the first thing that he's actually, at least that I've actually heard that made it, to the celluloid. So we see the results there. That was definitely a bona fide hit with a lot of people. So seeing this with the old guard, yes. Anytime that you have stuff from comics, indie comics, but anytime you have something from comics and it's out there and it's successful and it's doing well, then yeah, I'm always supportive of that because there's a ton of ideas, and there's so often they barely scratch the surface of this stuff. So it's just nice to see more of it getting out there and then getting a longer treatment. Because usually with more time, but when you have a comic book, you have like 6 issues, 10 issues, you may have years to develop a story. And then you get something like the old guard where you got to get that done in 2 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're able to knock it out, sometimes you're not. I never fault them if they made a good attempt and it didn't happen. Whereas like something like Jupiter's Legacy was just, I look at that and just like, I don't know who was in charge of this, but they were not thinking about this long term. They weren't, because you didn't go about it the correct way. However, look at the old guard, and where it's not something that necessarily I thought was a 10 out of 10, it resonated with more than enough people that they're paying it back.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when because I'm looking at, even though I wasn't a big fan of the big fight scene, I think the hook of it after they kill a couple of people and that when you see that the villain walks into the room after that, I think that was a good like moment and something that they could have started the series on, like really starting right in a big fight. They want to do the not kill thing, then maybe that could play out. But doing it at the kitchen table and all this other stuff in these weaker scenes is not as strong. And I think they kind of got to the point, and I think Mark Miller kind of didn't understand the crash sort of thing of and what business was like back in the day. It wasn't an altruistic thing, and also an American thing. It was business. It wasn't, it was people overspending, but not overspending for altruistic reasons and
Yeah.
trying to keep people together and all this stuff. It was like we make money first, then you make.
Well, I look at the crash. You could look at the crash of '29, similar to the. It's similar to what you had with the implosion of the '90s with comics,
Mhm.
where was it? You did that video where John Byrne was right, and John Bernard's idea, like, look, what are you guys selling? Nobody's really buying this. We don't have that many people out here buying, but they were still, I mean, it might as well have been counterfeit money. They were still printing it,
Yep.
and they were still pushing it, and they were pushing it, and they were pushing it. They were making tons of money. Okay. And the guys who were smart realized they knew exactly what was going on. They banked all that money,
Hmm.
and they're still cool with it. But and a lot of people ended up, a lot of comic shops went out, but I always faulted these guys. These guys knew good and well that they didn't have a ton of buyers coming in for these books. They were selling it to a whole bunch of guys who thought they were going to get rich off this stuff. And they were like, hey, that's fine. I made my money. And then later on, these guys were like, okay, then the implosion isn't because the implosion wasn't because, hey, we uh you cheesed off a whole bunch of people who were your only support. That's why it went belly up. Right? So the guys who were willing to spend money and buy 2 or 3 copies or so on and so forth, you drove those guys to the point they thought everything that they thought they wasted their money, they thought it was totally valueless, and they were out. And that's why you ended up going belly up across the board for a lot of people at the end of the day. So, they could have definitely went that route with it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought they went.
It was kind of trying to put the Superman character into a like I mean even like the early Clark Kent was meek and mild mannered in a funny way, like where it was like there's so many things. I look at that first story, and it's like Clark is like casually going about his day, and then Perry. Oh, it was I don't think it was Perry, but it's like the guys who play basically the original of the Daily Star. Turns like, what did you heard about this Superman? And then he kind of like and then later when he's dancing with like he's obviously there's so much character to him like in the story. They didn't just kind of what Clark Kent came later, where some points in this, in the '70s, they're trying to say, well, he's not kind of as meek, which was a good way to go about it. And sometimes he was overly that, or there was times in the '60s where it was like, okay, he has to be meek or else, because when he became totally human, he got back to that character that he was in the early stages where he didn't have to be fighting, but he was a little more determined in getting Lois. And it's kind of thing that we kind of lose where we just kind of put Clark Kent into a stock character. It's funny when the other guy comes for the date and he's like, you know, basically he's like, yeah, here Lois, go. It's funny, and that's the
What
thing. Like you're losing that sort of smile that Clark Kent had, not him sort of analyzing humans and saying, "Oh, I'm going to walk around stiffly like this." Like there was personality that, as you going on, and I'm not just trying to include, like Burn stuff, like from early on to like maybe later on in the '50s is kind of a lot of Superman, but that's ultimately that what it always happens. Even in this issue is going to be where there's no Superman, even in the Burn run where it's going to no Clark Kent because it's going to be like Superman is the two-parter. He's in another world, and you don't get any Clark Kent moments. But it's like having that sort of thing and saying this character doesn't have to be a total doofus, and that's what they kind of did with the Jupiter's Legacy is making this guy into this altruistic. Oh, yeah, he likes black people. Okay, yeah, I get it, but it's like, come on, it's like for business, you can like whoever you want, that sort of thing, but you can't turn a businessman into something else. And that's the thing is his father is the bigger businessman. If he's a shyster or he's running the business worse in a bad way, he's not gonna do it just to keep his son that happy and be like, look, I can't do anything, I can't do this stuff. Like I don't need you now to go fire those 2 black guys. Like what? I overextended as much as I could. Fire them. Like what? I can't have some real moments there, but it's kind of like if you read I'm branching off yet again. It's kind of like those scenes with the newspaper in what's that thing in the Watchmen where they kind of have it's an inner like he got like
we're doing? What, the
given
Midnight?
Yeah, Dave Gibbons kind of spoofed that in the She-Hulk. Like Dave Gibbons wrote this thing where it had these two guys in New York, and they just had these strong British accents. It's like that She-Hulk, like he's doing all of the British sort of like dialogue, and they got the British outfits, but they're in New York. It's clearly New York. The superheroes flowing around there, and that's kind of what he's kind of spoofing the Watchmen type of thing. But ultimately, that being said, that Jupiter's Legacy was a success in the comic books. There's many different miniseries after that, so it's kind of something that looked like it was something that had to meet for a series. And then at the same time, they give it. I have to give it its respect that the original showrunner said it costs X amount of dollars to make this type of show, and then they cut it and said no, we can't. We can only do it for this amount of money. And then of course they asked for reshoots, which cost more than what the guy originally said. So then at that point made a fever pitch where it's just like, yo, if it doesn't make money, it's cut. And they put it in a bad place. So it's like it's not really the fault of material. We of course can point out all the flaws, and I can say that I definitely say there's way things that they should have done, but the show was kind of cut off at the knees already. So it was kind of had to make it. It had to be a big push or not, and it's kind of like turned into just the fans being just a pastiche. So it's like, do I have to watch this? Whereas Netflix, they really didn't expect their show like Lucifer to be that big. They were like, hey, let's take it. We get the reruns of the old show, and we'll do this season 5 thing. And they're like, what? Season 5, all that stuff is selling like hotcakes. Let's do it. See, let's give them their final season, and you know what? Let's buy that other property nobody wants. Sandman. Let's do that. Nobody wants to buy Sandman. None of Neil Gaiman's stuff has been working. No, we'll do it now. Lucifer sold. We're doing Sandman. We got. That's how you kind of they tested the water, but they had a ton of Lucifer to test the product. They put it out there. It did well on their channel, and then they did a couple things, and then they're now buying Sandman. So that's the test. But they don't have a test. They have a movie like Old Guard. They have a test of success. So, you know, good luck to Mark Miller in his next thing. Hopefully, it does well. If they do, they continue on with the Super Crooks, but it's kind of tough. But we got Old Guard too. And any last words from you, Cal?
Uh, man, what I have realized is maybe we should do another show on Jupiter's Legacy because we still got a lot to say about that.
Now you're gonna make me watch the rest of it anyway. But
You didn't watch the whole thing?
I'm kind of dull. You think there's something I should watch as going forward? It's
How
still
far
up
did you
there.
get?
I
How
think the
far did
first episode.
Oh man. Oh, no wonder. Okay, that makes sense now with the criticism. The only thing I can say is that the storyline that they have for the Utopian and his origin story, that's actually probably the most compelling thing about the series.
Oh,
I thought they did a good job overall with that because then you get some more explanation as to uh, where his character's coming from, and why his character's a little bit more grounded in his code than everybody else. But that definitely is another show. That being
yes.
said, looking forward to seeing what Old Guard 2 can do. Can you improve on what you did with the first? I know you can. So let's see what you can do.
All right, spin a rack.
Out.